Fixez.com coming at you today with yet another disassemble. Looks like today we're going to be working on an Apple iPad 2. As always, before we get started with our repair, let's review our suggested tools. Plastic triangle opening tools. Small Phillips screwdriver. Plastic opening tools. A spudger. A heat gun or a blow dryer. We're going to show you how to change a series of parts out of the iPad. Before doing so, we need to show you how to peel back our front touchscreen. About 2 inches from the bottom on the left-hand side of the unit, we need to recognize that our ribbon cable for that front touchscreen is in this general location. And just to the right of the home button is where our Wi-Fi antenna is adhered to the bottom side of the touchscreen. So when we peel back our front touchscreen, let's be mindful of these 2 pieces as to not cause irreversible damage. Time to begin our entry into the iPad. Let's first start with our heat gun or blow dryer and begin to soften up the adhesive around the perimeter. About 1 to 2 minutes of the heat should suffice. Our triangle opening tools. Let's bring in our plastic opening tool, and you'll also notice in this video that we use a simple razor blade. We found that the razor blade is the easiest way to start the separation of the touchscreen from the iPad bezel. With your separation started with the razor blade, we can then bring in our plastic opening tool to continue the separation all the way around the perimeter of the iPad. As we work the opening on one side, you'll notice we fit a triangle opening tool into the gap. This is to keep the adhesive from coming back in touch with itself as we work ourselves all the way around the unit. Notice as we go from each side, again, another triangle tool goes into place. You'll notice in our video, we used our spudger to continue peeling the Wi-Fi antenna off the bottom side of the touchscreen before completely opening up the unit. When we finally did crack the unit open, we peeled the touchscreen back as if it was a book to make sure we didn't put too much tension on its ribbon wire and cause damage to it. Notice the LCD and how it's mounted with 4 Phillips screws. Let's now take our small Phillips screwdriver and remove these screws so that we can free the LCD for removal. Prying up lightly with our plastic opening tool and peeling out the LCD, we can lay it now on top of our touchscreen so that we can disconnect the cable from the motherboard. Our LCD cable has a locking socket. It's a metal style lever that needs to be flipped up in a 90-degree fashion. With the lock released, we can now remove the ribbon cable and lift the LCD completely from the iPad. Let's bring our attention now to the touchscreen connections. We have 2 locking sockets. We need to flip the tabs on and release. And then we can remove the ribbon cable and remove the touchscreen completely from the iPad. Here's our steps to remove our volume and power button controls. We first have to remove the dock port assembly by disconnecting its single plug and removing the 2 Phillips screws that secure it into place. Our Wi-Fi antenna is secured with 4 Phillips screws. Let's go ahead and remove those. You'll notice that the plug for the Wi-Fi antenna is hooked to the bottom side of our motherboard, which we need to remove to fully disconnect and remove the Wi-Fi. We have 2 cables that need to be addressed, the first being the plug connection for the speaker assembly, and then we have a locking ribbon cable over on the other side of the motherboard for the headphone jack assembly. A total of 5 Phillips screws secures the motherboard into the iPad, 2 on either side of the board, and then a single one at the battery connection. Let's go ahead and remove those. We can use a plastic opening tool or a spudger to lift the motherboard out of the body. With the motherboard removed, that should also bring along the Wi-Fi antenna that should still be connected to it. With our motherboard out of the way, it leaves us enough room to go ahead and pry up on our battery pack. Each of the 3 sections that you see has 2 strips of adhesive. We use a metal spudger to pry the battery packs up and out of the iPad. With the entire pack out of the unit, it's easy to see where the adhesive lies so that you could pry up on your own battery. There is a rubber cover covering the screws for the power button assembly. Go ahead and pull that from the top corner. The power button is secured by 2 Phillips screws we need to remove, and there's also the rear-facing camera that's held down by 2 Phillips screws. Let's remove those as well. With our camera screws removed, we can take our spudger now and release the connection for the camera and remove it from the iPad. Continuing with our screwdriver, we've got 3 Phillips screws that are holding in the volume button assembly, and then a 4th Phillips screw that is securing the control board for this complete assembly. With all of our screws removed, it's now a matter of patience and the use of our spudger to peel up the ribbon cable for the entire assembly, which is held down by a small amount of adhesive. Be careful during this process as the ribbon cable is very delicate. With enough patience, you will be able to remove it from the iPad for replacement. All of the parts and tools you've seen today in this video are available at www.Fixez.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.